Hello, everybody. Hi there. Welcome to this afternoon Saturday room. I was really pondering over something uh, that I recently saw on an interview with Bruce Lee's daughter. You know, she made a remark that really I thought that was true, and also we should be exploring that. She said everybody sees Bruce Lee's physical prowess and really admire him for that too. That's really true. But apart from that, she said he was mentally very strong. So what was the reason for his strength? What was the thing? Okay. Hi, Mark. Hi, Tova. So I was going to explore that mental strength through um, the other philosophers and sages, what they said, particularly J. Krishnamurti as the philosopher. Actually, he doesn't want to be called as a philosopher, but just to understand. And then sages like Ramana Maharshi. Both talked about mind, both talked about being real self, and both talked about intelligence and the role of mind in making us strong or weak, right? Generally, people in the world and in modern times, we stop at thought and we say we are what we think. Rene Descartes, 400 years ago, he said that, and then Western civilization caught up in that. That's not my opinion, but like rather a fact. That's true. Many people get caught in the thought, and then they think that the thought will produce all the answers. But then Bruce Lee was more like he was a philosopher major, I think, in the college, and he always really enjoyed his philosophy. Um, and it came to his aid when he was laid down with the back pain for about 6 months, right? He was invited to be, in bed, and then he was told, "You may not be able to walk again. You may not be able to, you will never be able to fight." That's what they told him. But then he used his own martial arts exercises to strengthen his back, but also he needed to release his mind from limited thinking or negative thinking or chattering you cannot do this, just relax, retire, something like that. But he would not accept it. Then he began to go through Krishnamurti, which he knew already, but then he was going through several of the other people, but he stuck on Krishnamurti, J. Krishnamurti. He wrote a book called Awakening of Intelligence. Krishnamurti's main thing is you are too caught up in what other people are saying, and you quote things from other people. Get rid of that burden of the tradition, and then start thinking new for yourself. And use the perception rather than thought, right? So there was a book called Ending of Thought. That's a major book, and also Awakening of Intelligence. I have the whole collection of Krishnamurti, by the way. It was like a important thing for me to go through, because when I first came to United States in 1981, I was only 26 or 27, something like that. Then obviously is uprooting from my family, friends, and culture and everything. So it was like a shock, right? But then also a lot of stress with being the doctor, getting into the job, and then immediately a second year I got a big promotion. So it was stressful, right? Then I found Krishnamurti's works at the time. Somebody took me to his video recording one day. They were playing it in what's called Oasis in Chicago. This place is on the lake, and it's a beautiful place, beautiful house. So everybody is sitting on the floor, and there was a big stand with video playing, and everybody is sitting down. Something what he said touched deep with me, and then my stress was kind of gone. I was taken back and said, "What is going on here?" Then he began to talk about how thought is the limiting factor, and how we should go over thought and be in the present, and really pay attention to what's happening in front of us. And that coming to the present probably clicked with me, and I stayed on that ever since, right? So no discussion with anybody, no talk with anybody, and just spontaneously happened to me, and that was a blessing, right? Then I began to want to understand how come we were taught about good thinking, deep thinking, thinking in a wise manner that is very good. Then how come this thinking has to be, ending? What he's talking about is end the thought in the sense, psychological sense. He explained very clearly. Suppose you want to go out somewhere, and then you want a map. Obviously you need that knowledge, you need the thought, that's okay. But for inward thinking, that's where we can get to this analysis paralysis, and that appealed to me very much, because even though I'm practicing internal medicine, we had to see some of the psychiatric patients, medical clearance, or just other medical conditions they have, whatever, right? We participate in the team as the medical managers of the patient's conditions, right? Then many of the patients were not pleased with the therapy that they were getting, the mental psychological therapy, and companies, corporations were complaining because many of these people are going to the therapists, but they're spending a lot of money without the results they were anticipating. So that's one proof I have that therapy, psychological things are not working for the patient as they're supposed to. So there was something wrong. So I began to study about that. Then suicides, depressions, anxieties, all these things we see them because we have to clear them for medical reasons. Then they will go and get the treatments, or they will go to nursing facilities or psychiatric facilities and all that, right? So that was a lively problem, live problem, because a lot of people are getting depressed and anxious, and uh, thinking too much was not really considered at the time, but then that is also a problem now, right? So we kind of looked at it from a practical viewpoint. So many of these people are not mentally strong. Now, how come Bruce Lee is staying alone in his house and really cut off from the entire world, and he doesn't even have a job, and his wife was going out to do some jobs. He was not very happy about it, because he wanted to provide. He was a proud man and all that, right? So Bruce Lee kind of looked at Krishnamurti's works. I think some of the, I don't know which works he read, but then he was reading them. And there was a documentary made on Bruce Lee. In that, his wife was telling, he died after the time, they made long after he died. This uh, Long after he died, they made this documentary. In the documentary, she made a comment like, Bruce Lee liked J. Krishnamurti's philosophy of being on your own and seeing things for yourself, and releasing the mind from dependency, and also from mind's own negative messages that are come to us because we are unaware of them, and then they come and we take them serious. This is very common. Okay? I have seen so many people talking to themselves down. Okay, some people talk positive and then reinforce themselves with positive talk, whereas uh, some people are positive affirmation, and they kind of recognize the mind can be your friend or your enemy according to what we talk to it all the time. That is there, right? I also, I don't really get any negative thinking because I always see something positive around everything negative, right? Even when I was sick and I was laid in the hospital, I said, "This too shall pass. I will come out of it. I will be okay." So everybody thought I will not be able to, but with that kind of mental attitude, you definitely will come out of anything, right? And I learned from the ancient text of Bhagavad Gita. What they said was, uh, whatever happens to you, whatever happens to you is for your own good. That is there. So it's kind of a test, or it's kind of using the situation, you will come out of it stronger. You can put any number of twists, but basically whatever happens in life is for your own good ultimately, right? So if you have suffering, not that you have to have suffering, but you use the suffering to get out some of the hurdles that you have in life, and then thereby you gain strength, and then use the strength for other situations should they arise down the line. So that is these are all positive, right? So there is a technique also in yoga that is called Pratipaksha Bhavana. Pratipaksha means opposite. Bhavana means feeling. If you have a negative thing happening to you, negative situation, negative treatment, or whatever, right? Then you are supposed to stay with that negative thought and then see something around that past, not somebody's telling, not some quote and all, but in yourself, you kind of dig out what is positive about it, and then the negative situation turns around as positive, right? So that kind of thing was there. So that Pratipaksha Bhavana in modern psychology equivalent is cognitive reframing. That I think a lot of people know. So whatever it is, Bruce Lee was not laden down by the negative thinking, and also he wanted to really understand what the Krishnamurti is saying, and then once he understood that you have intelligence behind the mind, that is something a lot of modern area thinkers don't admit, but actually ancient systems talk about intelligence, consciousness, whatever you call it, but they are beyond thought. There is a lot of intelligence there. So Bruce Lee kind of went behind that to the intelligence what Krishna is talking about, because he was always thinking about that, right? So let's see. Mark wants to come up. Let's see. Hey, Mark.
Hey, I didn't want to interrupt you. I just wanted to say something eventually.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Go ahead. Say what you want to say. No problem.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I think I mentioned to you before that I want to write a book, and the book is like bridging the gap between ancient wisdom, which is to me primarily Eastern wisdom, but also just the indigenous wisdom around the world. It doesn't have to be Eastern.
Yeah.
And then the modern wisdom, which to me is like epitomized with Daniel Kahneman, thinking fast and slow, and what's the nature of bias, and this whole thing about happiness, conscious and subconscious.
Yeah, happiness index, right? Daniel Coleman. Is that what you're talking about? Happiness index. He wrote the book.
Oh, sorry. Say that again.
Daniel Coleman. He wrote the book Happiness Index.
No. Daniel Kahneman wrote a book. It's very popular called Thinking Fast and Slow.
Oh, okay.
It's mainly about how humans are biased, and then he explains all the reasons why, and a bunch of stuff about what you can do about it.
Yeah.
So what you're kind of getting at is kind of the ancient wisdom is don't identify with your thoughts. Don't get caught up in your thoughts. Don't get thoughts from others.
Yeah.
Kind of be mindful, which is ironic and paradoxical because it really means mind empty.
Empty. Right? Yeah, that's it. Mindfully, I don't like it because I would say awareness fullness.
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, it just excites me because you talk about the stuff that I think about and I
Yeah.
want to try to put in my book, but I want the book to be, and I'm sure you would agree.
Sure.
I want the book to be a very attractive to people that are grown up and
Yeah.
raised on Western dualism, which is really helpful because it's
Yeah.
rationalism and it's
Yeah.
getting to understanding the differences, not understanding the commonalities, and it is
Sure.
helpful,
Sure.
but it's
Yeah.
not as helpful as
Yeah.
understanding the similarities.
Let me know if you really want my input. I would be happy to give it to you. Okay, no problem.
Oh, 100%,
Yeah,
100%.
because
I love listening to your stuff because it's like I don't have friends that talk about this
yeah,
stuff, and when you
yeah,
talk, I'm like, oh yeah, that's
no,
what I think about.
Mark,
So
you and
yes,
me are modern people. We are brought up in the modern education system. And then we began to see so many problems coming out of so many areas. Then you go to the ancients, they talk about, hey, thought is your property. That's not you. Go beyond it, and then you will find treasures. You know what? I found the treasures. That is what I'm trying to express to people because I live in a kind of serene, silent bliss. You know. So if you want to come up, Mark, no problem. Okay, we can talk a little bit about this because this mental strength is something I want to see in my students, and I want to see in my uh, daughter, son, and other people too. Because recently, one of my niece's boy is very obese, and they are very concerned about him. So I wrote a small ebook just for their sake, but that is going to be released for everybody too. Because I'm a physician who had treated a lot of obese patients, sent them to bypass surgery when they needed it, and also sent them to really take some medications. Also, bariatric medicine was something coming up now. Now, drugs that we're using are causing severe nausea. All that. Anyway, I sent them this book. One of the things is they are talking to the kid as though he's doing something wrong because he's eating and but he is trying to control his appetite and he's getting upset because they are sitting down and give him lectures. That's the wrong thing to do. His mind is acting against it. So I said, uh, give him a break. Let him do what he can do, and then don't let him feel like ashamed of his body because just because he's obese, it doesn't mean the inner person is not good or anything like that. So this body shape, body image focus is completely modern. Before they used to say, so what? He's human being. He could be a little bit heavy. That's okay. But then, being attractive, being slim, only those people have good bodies. That was not their saw. What they saw was, is this a good person? Is it a kind person, compassionate person? Is it helpful to other people? Is he enjoying his life or not? All those stuff. So they have not had this complex in the yesteryears. Years. Whereas modern girls, they are made to feel like unless you are skinny, bony, you are not beautiful. I think that's unfortunate. So when I work with obese people, that's the first thing I tell them about. You are not just your body. You have the body, but you are not just the body. You are more like have the body as a tool, but the real, not even personality ego, but the real uh, substrate of you as a human being. The being part of it is more important. That is a lot of people don't have the concept about it. So when I get the patients also, I told you so many times, the audience who are listening to me, I go straight to their being. That tells me a lot of things, and also I can see their mind operating as an object. I can see their body as an object, but those objects owner is what I'm focusing on. You know, that is what it is. Anyway, our topic today, for example, we are talking about how do you make your mind friend and how do you strengthen that without allowing it to go run whatever it is, and then build up negativities, build up other people's opinions, and all that, which is really detrimental, unnecessary. I'm glad Mark is writing a book about thoughts and all that. So I'm going to support it definitely, because I see a lot of suffering because of this division. People are not able to understand. I have thoughts, but thoughts are not having me. But that is what we give away our power. We give it to the thoughts, and then whatever memories we had, whatever images we built up, thought construct things that we give importance over our real inner being. Okay, so the whole thing about yoga, the whole thing about Ayurveda is to really identify with that. Hi, Angela. Identify with that uh, uh, inner being, and then hi, Angela. So it is about once you have that, I'm myself is being, and I have this thought making mechanism as a tool. Then there is something about what is called manonasha. That means that so-called mind we built up is not real. All we have is only thoughts. Once you come there, then thoughts can be. So Bruce Lee, what did he do? He released this mind thing, this attachment to the mind thing, and that's why even if exercise, suppose he's exercising outside in a tree, and he would go on hours and hours and hours banging the tree. Actually, he developed the hypertrophy of the joints on the knuckles, because he was banging a bag or whatever hours and plain wall, brick wall. He was doing that, and then that fist became pretty powerful later on. But then he was beginning not the mental thoughts, but the feeling. You remember in the Enter the Dragon, he says emotional content to the kid who was teaching in the beginning. He says, "Don't be angry, but bring the emotional content." That's what he mastered at, and that's why he became such a unifying body, mind, and spirit into his fighting. Okay, we only see his physical prowess and we admire him, which is fine, which is good. I enjoy his fighting skills and all that. They're really extraordinary. No doubt about it. He showed so many things. See, he knocks off somebody from just 1 inch fist fight, and then he throws that power from there. So he generates all the power into that fist. And that is because you are unified in your inner being, mind, and body, and breath, and everything. So all the force goes. For practical purposes, what I am talking about here is how can we make many young people, many other, they may have so many afflictions, but how can we make them mentally strong so that they have the resilience to face the problems of modern life? Everybody has that, right? We have to struggle for getting an opportunity or excel in the job, or even if you're all of them, you have to deal with your own mind, your own relations, because we are so weak and we don't have control. We say things and we spoil our relationship, and so much divorce, so much separation happens. And also, you may be running everything okay, but then suddenly something happens and they break up, or you lose property, we get really depressed and all that. So all that is because misunderstanding about what is mind. How do you make that a friend, not an enemy? How do we really help us to be strong in that, so that it won't become a like a impediment or weakness, but it could be mentally strong. I took Bruce Lee because everybody knows him, and although he displayed that, and I know his story and what he did. And when his daughter came the other day and she said he's more than physical, he is mentally strong, then I knew the story with J. Krishnamurti releasing his mind. And also, I wanted to introduce what is called Manonasha, that is annihilation of the mind by Ramana Maharshi, which works for me. So my development is Bruce Lee. I only saw him as a fighter. I enjoyed the movie that's in the 70s. I didn't know much about him, that he was a philosopher and all that. But later on, I came to know about all that. But I know J. Krishnamurti is awakening the intelligence and ending the thought and all those two books I recommend for you guys to go and explore it if you want to. And then Ramana Maharshi, the sage of the South India, that talked about self-inquiry, who am I, find out that being and stationed in the being, and then you would be weak. He said, if you are in thought, you are weak. But if you are abiding in your real self, not the selfish self, but the bigger self, then you are very strong. That is what I do. Even nighttime sleeping, also I go into that being and then stay there, not in the thought. Okay. So, Angela, any questions on the mental strength part of it?
I was on the bus. I'm just listening right now, Doctor.
Okay, okay. So, it's a kind of knowing these things are very important. That's why I brought up this topic. And I'm fascinated by Bruce Lee, and then I'm fascinated by what J. Krishnamurti said about releasing the mind from limitation. And see, basically, you want to live this life and enjoy here, and that's it. That's one style. Or you want to live this life, but it also contribute to the life, understand the sufferings, understand the joys of it, and they contribute to the resolution of the suffering. That's the other way. It seems to me ancients were more about not just living and making a living, but about what is life, what is the deeper meaning of life. So they explored tremendously, and centuries were under that. And then when people were like that, they were much more peaceful inside and joyous inside, and also conservative about using the resources of the earth. So they were having a symbiotic relationship with the earth. But then once we switch it to more like consumption oriented only and don't want to replace the earth, we began to really harm the nature, harm the earth. And now we see we are kind of getting the benefit of that, or result of that is we are not benefit. The result of that is global heat, right? So that's another thing too. How can you be joyful, happy, serene inside if you can understand without clamoring for this, grasp for this worldly things? You don't have to be a monk. Just be responsible. Just be that kind of thing. And also, even if you want to do those things, you need the mental strength. In very which way we need, and also uh, we can use the books, but book reading is not going to really do this. You may get suggestions. How come the self-help books are so many out there? Why they are not working is that thing is outside you. You have not found out by yourself. That's what will be better once you have the insights that are any self-help book. Actually, they are pretty good. They research and they put effort and then they put all the truths, but how you take the truth, how you really make it your own, and how you think about it, and then how you question it, and then how you allow it to daily life. Just reading and having the knowledge is nothing compared to what you applied in your own life. You will see that there's inner joy, inner peace. If you don't have it and you claim it, you are not cheating anybody except yourself. But if you have it and then you are enjoying it, and you understand it, I think you should share with people, not in the sense of preaching them, but more like a uh, how you can lead this kind of life by just understanding thought is only one object for us, for the subject self of who we really are. Thoughts and bodies are objects. There is a mantra I teach in the morning. I don't teach religiosity. I teach the meaningful mantras, that they can repeat. It's called Deham, Naham, Koham, Soham. Meanings are Deham means body. Here in yogic sense, body is not just only physical body, but the physical body and subtle body, which are thoughts and feelings, and also causal body, which are the genes and all that. So this body also includes our mind and our nervous system, endocrine system, all of that. Okay, that is the subtle body. Gross body is the anatomy and all that, right? So deham means both body and mind complex. Naham is I'm not. I'm not just the body and mind. Uh, and then koham means then who am I? Then you say soham. Soham means my individual being coming from the universal being found its place back to the God or whatever you can term, whatever term you want, energy, consciousness, self, love, all these terms are used for that. Okay, so I'm not just this body and mind, but I have this body and mind, but I'm really this particular energy that is coming from the universal energy. That kind of mean. Once you repeat that, then your identification with the body and the mind will lower. Then mind will be in its place, not running all over. That is the thing. Then you become very strong. Hope that is clear. So now, if anybody wants to come up, you can come up and we can talk more about these things. I can go on my own, but I want to encourage you people to participate in the dialogue and come and tell me if you have any um, not clear what I'm talking about, or clear, or you have your own, like Mark did. You can also come and tell me about it. Passive absorption of the information has to be thought over and then implemented. Then only it will become much more meaningful for us, I think. So that's what they talked about in Sanskrit, what they described. Shravanam is listening with an open mind. Mananam, that is like reflecting on the truths that you have heard, questioning, doubting, getting answers from your doubts and then clarifying it, not accepting it, but pondering over, reflecting over that truth. And then finally, nididhyasana. Shravanam, listening, mananam is that reflection, and third one is nididhyasana, where you make it real in your life, the truths that you have learned. Then they'll have real effect on it. Just because everybody saying, "Oh, thoughtful, deep thought," I mean, thought and all that, you are losing out because thought is very limited. And also, if you allow the thought to dominate, too many thoughts coming up, and then they are causing a lot of problems to a lot of people. Okay, that's why understanding the faculty of thought, where it has a role, where it is a limiting thing, where it can really be negative and harm us, where it can be too much going on, too many thoughts going on. So why do you think people meditate? Why do you think people want to keep quiet? Because that inner chatter, compulsive chatter, is not good for us. Okay, so understand thought as a not you, but your instrument, your tool, and it is an object to your subjective self. Once you are in that subjective self and you begin to use the thought, you can use thought very effectively, very usefully, and very enhancing your life too. Thought is a powerful force that comes in us. You got to know how to handle it. Okay, I'm happy because I kind of, even though I'm talking so much with so many people with the intention of sharing, I am basically silent. I was not like this before. So that's why I come up and talk about it. You don't have to be a particular religion. You don't have to be a particular philosopher. You don't have a particular sex. You don't have to be a particular age group, or you don't have to be any particular social, economic, or political, any career. All you have to do is take time in the morning and in the evening, being quiet himself, quieting the thoughts, quieting everything, and then going and working whatever you do. They are also being attentive, not really wayward and thinking something, doing something. Okay, so that's a very good. Hi, Roland, welcome. So mental strength comes from not just the thoughts, but in your inner being. If you can stay there, then you can use the mental faculty very effectively. You can write books, you can write courses, and all of that. But learn to be silent in the morning, in the evening. So I start my wellness club in the morning. First thing is, let us be here and now. This is an hour of awareness. In awareness, in the present, that means if something comes up and all that, you put it away, focus on what you're trying to do, and then do with me. I'm with them, I'm doing it. Suppose I do an asana, I do it in awareness. So in the awareness in the moment mean that I'm looking at this awareness thing, really helping me to be here and to be perceiving what is happening in my body. Suppose I have some backache in the body and doing this, then I'm aware of it. Discomforts, or suppose it is very well balanced and then it's bending very well, you notice that. So that is called swa adhyaya, self study. You study your body, you study your thoughts, your feelings, all that. By doing that, you have a handle of those things. Suppose something is really painful, then you better get it tested. Then you will be able to find out some things ahead of time. Then you are going to attend, then you will be having less time in the hospital. So being aware of what is going on in the body and in the mind, that means awareness is a different faculty to your mind. So once you are in that being, then all these instruments of ours, which are the brain, the thoughts and feelings in it, the heart, and then the body itself is your objects, and you can observe them impartially and take care of them. Okay, so this talk is about mental strength of Bruce Lee, how he released his mind from all the hang-ups he had, all the negative things that were put into him, like he is not able to fight, he is not able to even walk. All those limitations are in his mind. He would not allow them to grow. He rather kind of went beyond it, because he was working, reading with Krishnamurti's works, and they're all about that: ending the thought, awakening the intelligence. Those are very important. They talked about this computer taking over, and what we are going to do with the brain. J. Krishnamurti and David Bohm. They have a series of videos called "Future of Humanity." You can read that. David Bohm is a contemporary of Einstein. So he was very young when he joined, and Einstein was his old, but he's a brilliant physicist. David Bohm is. Actually, when they were talking, both of them, I was able to understand what David Bohm is saying, all these intricacies, because my mind is also a Western mind, the way I grew up, right? I didn't have these things at that time. So I couldn't understand Krishnamurti thing, but I was able to understand David Bohm. But then David Bohm is doing a service, because he knew many people cannot catch Krishnamurti. So he was kind of putting in the language that we could really make something out of it. But later on, once I began to really get into the groove of Krishnamurti, he invites you to explore together. That means you have to be at the level of the thinking, then you will go in there, right? And then he's very simple, very easy to understand. But before that, if you want to take information, think about it, then that is going to be very difficult. But if you are at that level of thinking, then you'll be able to really understand better. What does it mean is what they feel about how human beings are misusing an instrument and suffering. You should be able to appreciate that, and they have the same intensity to find answers for that suffering. Then things will be more evident to you. Okay. Mark, this is something to you also, because if you look at that way, explore, not just like information, then you will be much more clear about what you are talking about. So remember what I said about Bruce Lee overcoming his back pain and laid in the bed by not allowing his mind go the other way, but he released it from that bondage, and then negativity. and then he was able to really become a good fighter and made that world famous movie Enter the Dragon. And then he inspired millions of kids to be strong by martial arts. And but he is, see, he wrote a sentence of what he wanted to do. He wanted to do $10 million. He wanted to be the best fighter. He wanted to be world known, most superstar of the Bollywood, not Bollywood, Hollywood, and all that, right? And he achieved all those goals, what he wrote down on the paper, in 2 years' time. So there's a confidence that he is bringing that emotional content, not the intellectual chatter. So there's something you want to learn. Then you want to understand people like what J. Krishnan said, what Ramana Maharshi said, and all that. I brought in the sage Ramana because he's not for any particular religion, okay? But he did not read this thing. His enlightenment was spontaneous, and that was going inside and finding himself. That's a simple way to do. I think we complicate by bringing all other things, but if you just keep quiet and then turn inward, you can be like that too. That is, like I told you, it's a serene peace, happiness, blissful thing that will happen when your mind is quiet. So it's as simple. Use it for practical purposes, the mind, but for your inner things, be quiet. So I think that came out. Angela, anything you want to say, or are you happy?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Doctor.
Okay.
I'll come in the room tomorrow. Thanks.
Okay. Very good. All right. Roland, you want to say anything? You want to come up? Please come up. I have not talked to you for a long time.
That's all right. I want to say I appreciate all the knowledge that you share, and I love hanging around with the doctors.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure, sure. Okay, so I'll be leaving now, and then we will see again tonight at 6 o'clock, my usual room, where I will explore this a little bit more. I think I want to make a movie on this topic, and probably I'll bring that also along so that people can enjoy that. Okay, thank you. Okay, everybody, on the uh, Noom vibe, thank you all, and I'll see you again tonight.